Welcome into the Crypto Bunker podcast. And as you guys can see, got myself an updated situation here, got an actual podcast mic, and just wanted to shout out to whoever's watching this, who might have been watching back in the day. And it's crazy to say I've almost been doing this for a year now. Only 176 subscribers, but it's steadily growing over time. And, I want to do more with the podcast, and I want to work harder at it. So I hope that you guys appreciate, all the work that I put in so far. And remember, these pieces of trash and that's what I was doing the podcast with. So hopefully this brings more viewership. I also have been updating the thumbnails just to kind of make it more attractive, a little bit more professional. So hopefully you guys appreciate that as well. I did want to start with just talking about what's been going on in the market. And before we get into the charts, before we get into any of that, just kind of talking about sort of the sentiment around what's going on. It seems to me, at least, that people are euphoric, or they were, at least, for this little bit of a rally that we just had. And there's a reason that people probably shouldn't be euphoric, and it's because, unfortunately, as much as we've been told that Bitcoin is an inflation hedge, it's actually not. It's actually a monetary policy hedge. So if inflation is strong, but the Fed is reeling back the printer and reeling back the balance sheet, then that means Bitcoin will struggle. When I guess there was rates that were being raised in, before, I think when there was a Bitcoin rally, the last bull run, and they raised rates, and I guess it kept going up, I think people have said, but there wasn't rampant, consistent, non-transitory inflation that was happening at that time. And so right now we're seeing steady, consistent, sticky inflation that is not going away, and it's not really expected to go away. And people are just starting to realize that this is something that might not go away. And this is the reason why people are expecting an economic downturn. It's one of the reasons. Another reason is fiscal policy. So there's monetary policy, which is the Federal Reserve, and then there's fiscal policy. Fiscal policy is the government, and that ended just recently as well. So families that had a few children, I believe, were being given monthly paychecks, monthly checks for just having kids, just to support them. And so that could have been some of the reason also behind the inflation. There was also all the people who were unemployed who were getting checks for over a year. I mean, that definitely ended, I think, in last August. But there were people, who still have that money, who have saved that money, and who are, who are now, or at least have maybe been purchasing things, maybe not. And the other crazy thing about inflation in the short term is that people again, they get confused. There's asset inflation, and then there's goods inflation, things that you need. Asset inflation has been happening since, God only knows, right? If we look at, let's start to take a look at some charts here. And we can look at, let's see if we can look at Amazon, for example. All of these assets have just gone up over time. Man, look at that thing. Look at that complacency leg that we can see is running right into this resistance. But, this is sort of the general sense of what has happened over the years. We can look at it on the weekly. But yeah, this is like what you've gotten if you've invested in Amazon throughout the years. And this is like, Amazon is in most of the indexes. It's definitely one of the leaders in the market. And one of the reasons that really the market has gone up so much, and that's another thing, is these big tech, stocks like Amazon, Microsoft, Facebook, um, Apple, obviously. Those stocks going up over time has really helped the entire market go up as well. And so there's been this asset inflation. But now the Fed is raising rates to a degree that they haven't done in a long time. But the thing is, they're doing it into slowing growth. And people are thinking that there actually is increasing growth because consumer spending is good right now. And things like that. Okay. So again, this just put in, I mean, if I could short, to be honest, I'm not someone that goes and just shorts, but this to me looks like a dead short, and a pretty good one too. But anyway, there again, asset inflation is different than monetary inflation. So now I feel like the average person has been conditioned to think that when that inflation is just constant and it's always happening with assets. So people are like, oh, I got to put my money into assets, but they're poor. And then they put all their money into assets. And then once they do that, look what happens. Oh, this is when they've been doing it, right? I mean, look at this thing has just gone sideways, Amazon. It made one run and then it's gone sideways. And this is just Jeff Bezos selling into the public. Retail thinking that that's going to go retail, Bezos, retail, Bezos, retail, Bezos, retail, Bezos. Like he has all the stock. So he's just dumping on people. He's on private jets. He's cashing out. He's doing, things. He's been in it since the beginning and that's why he's rich, is from the stock. That's why he's one of the richest people in the world. And so he's just been dumping on retail. And if you weren't here for this one run, well, you missed out pretty much. Not pretty much, but there's been other runs. But in general, this one was just him dumping on everyone. And so let's take a look at the Nasdaq. And like I said, people are just confused. They think, oh, I can't be in dollars. I can't be in dollars because inflation. Well, now you need dollars. Now you need more dollars than you had before. You need way more dollars. So dollars are in need during goods inflation, during short-term inflation. We're talking about asset inflation. That's different. So you have to know the difference there. If you look at the Nasdaq, I mean, again, if I can find a way to short it, maybe SQQQ is a way to short it. But look at that candle there. That is dead flat on the week. I mean, imagine if we closed, kind of like that, and how much rejection we just got here. And so, again, this is a trend line that I can show. I mean, just look at this thing. I mean, this is more of a bubble than anything over here. You know what I mean? Like, so this is like the trend line that I've drawn from 2008 on the weekly here. This is sort of where I think it could come back to, honestly, which is like 50% from here at least. The 200-day moving average is around 240. That's where we came to end this trend line as well on the 2020 crash. And we're in pretty crazy times because the Fed has created this asset bubble. So you have to know that this is what the Fed did to ease the economy, which you could say, I guess, that they did. But you could also say that they didn't, because what happened with the pandemic was they just erased all of the mom and pop shops and propped up all of the public market stocks like Walmart and Target that trade on the stock exchange. So look what they've done to the ordinary person. They've, God forbid that the ordinary person didn't save money and they just threw it into stocks. And now they think that they're going to be rich because that's what everyone does. Well, no, look at all of the whales who just dumped on your head. Right. And now, I mean, when you look at a chart and you see it kind of go up and there's these little 5% corrections, right? And it's like chopping, but it's going up in a straight line. There's no, we have the 50-week SMA here. We have held that 50-week SMA all the way through since the March 2020 correction, all the way through until here. We broke through it. We even broke through the 50 SMA. Okay. And none of these have even crossed yet. So keep that in mind. They're probably going to cross. Like we're probably going to hang around here. I mean, so it could go two ways. It could go black swan event. Who knows what that will be? But the Fed needs a black swan event. So let's just throw that out there. The Federal Reserve needs something to happen so that they don't have to stop printing money. Because if they stop printing money, well, that screws everyone, screws the economy. And they're doing it into slowing growth. Okay, keep that in mind. Slowing growth and decelerating inflation, possibly. But it could be even worse. It could be just steady inflation and they crash the markets. So, I mean, that's a recipe. That's a recipe for pitchforks and, things like that in the streets, people rioting in the streets. So we'll see. I mean, God forbid, I hope that does not happen, but I am prepared. And I would suggest that people would prepare for anything, really. You want to just have your items in check. You want to be prepared for the worst, but hope for the best. And that's what we're doing. But again, this is a long-term trend that we've been in here. And it looks to me as though we broke through and now we broke through the 50 and then now we're testing the 50 and we got rejected. Let's look at it on the daily because it's a little bit different. It's different because it's actually the 200, which is even worse. And we just had a death cross on the daily. So a death cross is when the 20 SMA crosses, well, it's like a mega death cross, really, I guess. But it's the 20 crossing the 200, which means the 200, which is like the long-term average. So think of like years and years of this average playing out. And then we have the short-term average, which is like short-term sentiment crossing that long-term average, which means sentiment's really bad right now and that markets have taken a hit. But right now, what has happened is we have crashed through the 200-day. We tested, we got rejected, we tested, and now we got rejected again. And so on the daily, there's really nowhere for it to go. And it's crazy because it hasn't even gotten close to this 200, right? This whole time. And now we're below it and we're testing back above and we're getting rejected. I don't exactly have a target. I think my target is like 320 for short term. But in terms of long term, it's hard to say. It's really hard to say because it could go anywhere. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised again to see this long-term trend like 200. And I know that sounds crazy. Like that's like lower. It's like COVID, maybe the top of this here, like 236 or something like that. That's what I'm thinking. But take a stock like a good stock like Starbucks, right? Where it's like this is a perfect example of consumer discretionary. So there's consumer discretionary, which is things that people want. And then there's consumer staples, which is things that people need. And so in a recession, you want to invest in consumer staples because that's like toothpaste, things like that people literally need every single day, that they use every day for, whatever they need to do. But that's just one example is toothpaste. So like Procter and Gamble, for example, that's part of consumer staples. And then you have consumer discretionary, which is like Home Depot, Lowe's, home improvements, stuff that people want. And that's been a big thing. That's been a big thing because people have been cooped up and they haven't had anything to do. So they've just wanted to improve their house because that's where they live, right? It's kind of like what I'm doing with this mic. Like I'm inside, I'm trying to improve my podcast. I'm trying to improve, have multiple streams of income. And so I want to make this better. And so I need to improve my lighting. My lighting's a joke right now. My camera's a joke. So I'm going to steadily kind of get there. And hopefully you guys can support me along the way. If you haven't, give this video a like. That does help the algorithm. That does help get this out to more people. I've seen it on some of my videos that have like 1,300 views. And unfortunately, my most popular video, which is the metaverse video, it actually, I use deadmau 5 as the track on the background. So it actually ended up being not monetized at all. So that probably would adjust my numbers right now. But I need 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours to get monetized. And so right now I think I have almost 1,000 watch hours and 176 subscribers. So I'm just going to keep grinding away. And hopefully you guys again can support me through that. But yeah, so we're on like a pretty good trend line here for Starbucks. So it is catching some support. But again, it has fallen through and it now tested the 100 and it looks like it wants to go to the 200 possibly and even lower than that maybe. So, in this market is just across the board. It doesn't look great. Another thing I want to look at is the gold to Bitcoin ratio, because gold in a time of fear is usually something people want to own. And so if we look at this and we say, okay, if people want to own gold in a time of fear, a time where they think the economy might be slowing, in a time they see inflation that might not be something that's just transitory. Because what you have to understand is that Bitcoin's a risk asset. We're very, very early in what crypto might be. There's many, many risks involved, and we've gone over these in past episodes. So if you haven't heard some of the risks, I will start to sort of make that a priority to go over the risks of Bitcoin and the risks of Ethereum, because literally no one is objective in this market. Okay, I want to be the objective guy, and that's not something that sells. Okay, so I need you guys to appreciate the objectivity. I need it. I need you to appreciate it, because I swear there is not a single YouTuber that you watch that is going to be as objective as I'm trying to be. And I'll admit that I wasn't always objective, because I was just always sort of long ETH, long altcoins. And what I've learned is that because we're so early and because there's so many risks involved, that having, instead of 100% of your net worth in crypto, maybe have 30 or maybe have 10. Because if it goes up, if crypto is successful, it will go up 10x from here, at least any coin you own. Okay, I'm not saying that they will all be successful, but what I'm saying is that because we're so early, you don't need to go all in. You just have to have a long-term mindset. And you have to know that crypto is not the way out. It's actually increasing your income that's the way out. And for me, I was always like, ETH's going to hit 20K and I'm going to retire. Or ETH's going to hit 50K and I'm definitely going to retire. And those dreams and thoughts that Raoul Pal and people like that put into my head, it actually made me more lazy, because I thought I was privileged. I thought I had an automatic thing that was going to happen. It's not automatic. You have to know that. Now, if you pick the right asset and maybe you have a basket of assets, for me, it's just going to be ETH from here on out. That's just a personal decision. None of what I say is financial advice for anything. But yeah, I don't want to own Bitcoin. But this is just an example of Bitcoin versus gold. And as you can see, we came into some pretty interesting candles here. And in my opinion, this is what a bottom should look like. It's kind of flat on the candle closes, but we see buys. We see big buys here. We see it's sort of a gravestone doji here. Oh, it is, gravestone doji. So it's kind of, so this is kind of a dragonfly and this is a gravestone. And when I see that, I think that's a good thing to see, honestly. It was sort of the opposite of what we saw on Microsoft at the end of the bull run there. I came out and said all of this. I mean, you can go back and check, like I've been on point. So hopefully you guys have been listening and have been, gold has outperformed Bitcoin here, right? Since the top, since around the top, we've had this bottoming process. This is what I would call a double bottom. It's really what I would call a W bottom. Bam, 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 bam. And now we shoot and we probably go through this. We might even hit 0.1. Okay. So if you traded your Bitcoin for gold right now, I believe you could probably get double the amount of Bitcoin if you wanted to for your gold. But there are other things that are happening. And so what I think, I just want to go through some of my tweets because I try to get my thoughts out there on Twitter, but I know that not everyone has a Twitter. Not everyone is going to see, my tweets, which is unfortunate because I have been calling some of these moves and I've been pretty right. So, hopefully I'm like, you guys have, me on there and you're sort of understanding where we are in the cycle. Because, we can go to the Bitcoin chart itself, but it looks, oh my goodness. Yeah, it's not good for the bulls. And this is what I was saying. And I actually had a friend yesterday who I got into the market at the beginning, like March 2020. I started to get her in, and she doesn't know really too much about crypto, but she's my girlfriend. And she doesn't know a lot, but she also does at the same time. So it's weird. But I think when you hold crypto for long enough, you become very nostalgic towards it. And so it takes a big shake to get you out of there. So for me, it was a difficult decision to do that, to kind of shake her and sort of force her out. But she's made a really good game and she's been in since like 10K. And, I was like forcing her to buy back then, right? So why wouldn't I force her to sell at 44K when I believe we have seen a top in the complacency rally? And this is just an example of what we could do. It's like, this could be like a W bottom, best case scenario. But honestly, to me, it doesn't look like it's going to do that. To me, we would have had to make it to up here, like 50K, to form this massive W. But this W, I think, is a little bit too short. I don't really think we made it there. And so we'll see what happens. I think if you follow Random Task on Twitter, he predicts sort of that this like W bottoming process, and this is like where he's going to get in. And it's a good thesis because I think a lot of people, including probably myself, when we're here, when we're like touching these lows at 33K, people are going to be screaming, oh my God, it's a bear. sell everything. It's a full on bear. And I think at the very least, we could get a W fake out bounce to 44 back to where, maybe not even that high, maybe 43. And then if that doesn't work, then we have the real bear. We'll see though. We'll see how it plays out. No one can predict it really. You can predict it like when you're seeing it though. And that's what I was doing today and in the past couple of days, really just all through here. I was saying this is a strong trend line that we're running into here. It's a strong sort of trend line because we have this high here, we have this high, we have this high, and then we have this perfect touch there. And we have this sort of like support around this range too. And we have this here. So as many touch lines as you can get on these things is really the key to understanding where they play out. And as much as people hate like diagonal lines and stuff, and there's also, in my opinion, if you search out the different diagonals, you can see how they all make sense. Like it touched exactly that, and then it got rejected again at exactly that. And so I think it's just important to recognize that. And the reason I've been covering Bitcoin lately is because that's sort of, again, it is the king still in terms of market cap. And so that's just kind of what's going on. But Bitcoin Maxi's coming out bullish for this Russia news is a perfect sign of a top. And I said this 22 hours ago for this complacency rally. Everyone in this market is brain dead at this point and actually still thinks that we're going up only. And what you may have missed from the Russia thing is that cryptocurrency purchases in Russia may take place, but only through locally registered and licensed companies so that users are fully verified and information about their transactions can be made available to government agencies. The proposal suggests allowing banks to operate as intermediaries between users and cryptocurrency exchanges. This literally defeats the purpose of crypto, but Bitcoin Maxi evangelists are posting Putin memes with glasses on, saying it's all part of the hash war games. So please wake up from the slumber here. I think that a lot of people also went long today on inflation, which again makes no sense. And it's weird. So I think the only thing that Bitcoin is, I guess, is what you can say is that it's a hedge against monetary policy, which just means the Fed's balance sheet. And so Raoul Pal has always said that. And so I'm surprised, it's also just network effects, which is another way of saying like, it's kind of a Ponzi because the more people you get in, the more money you make. And that's like the number go up technology that they call number go up technology. That's literally a thing that Bitcoiners say. I think I'm going to make a video of like all the things that Bitcoiners say that are like kind of a psyop or what I would call mass formation psychosis for Bitcoin. I think it exists for Bitcoin as well. So yeah. So again, that's let's go through some of the other things that are coming on. So surprise, surprise, they're changing how CPI is calculated for January 2022. Changes based on consumer expenditure data from 2019 to 2020. The goods and services that receive the most weight in CPI for January 2022 will be the goods and services most purchased last year at this time or 2 years ago when we were were in lockdown. I thought this was interesting. If you want to read into this, Bitcoin failed in El Salvador. The president says the answer is more Bitcoin. He's spinning new project as fast as he can, and his bonds that he has on his country that he used to buy Bitcoin are now dropping in terms of considered more and more junk because his average price is even higher than we are now of buying in. So he thought he was buying the dip at like 47K. And unlike Michael Saylor at MicroStrategy, who luckily got in early enough to make his average cost lower. I think his average cost is like 32K though. So I think we're going to go below his average cost and he might have some trouble from there. So watch out, just watch out for things that have to happen. I mean, these companies, remember what Elon's price entry was around 37K, I want to say, for Tesla. So just be aware of these entry prices for some of these companies. But Bukele's experiment in making Bitcoin an official national currency alongside the US dollar has not gone well. And so more than 91% of Salvadorans want dollars, not Bitcoins. The official Chivo payment system was unreliable at launch in September. The kiss of death for a new system. Users joined the $30 sign-up bonus, spent it, or cashed it out. Then they never used Chivo again. Chivo. The system completely failed to check new users' photos, relying solely on their national identity card number and date of birth. Massive identity fraud to steal sign-up bonuses ensued. Bitcoin's ridiculously volatile price was appreciated only by aspiring day traders. Large street protests against compulsory Bitcoin implementation continued through October. The government stopped promoting Chivo on radio, TV, and social media. Chivo buses and vans were seen with plastic taped over the company's logo. Bukele's financial problems remain. El Salvador cannot print its own dollar, so Bukele urgently needs to find his heavy deficit spending. The International Monetary Fund has not lent the country the $1 billion that Bukele asked for and has indicated strong concerns about the Bitcoin scheme. So Bukele, known for his populism that is half aspiring dictator, half Elon Musk, once more announced national policy from the stage. At the Latin American Bitcoin and Blockchain Conference, Bukele came on stage. We all know what happened with that. He is saying he's going to have volcano bonds starting soon. The 10-year volcano bonds would pay 6.5% annual interest. 500 million of the bond revenue would be used to buy Bitcoins. So you're basically buying Bitcoins with that bond purchase. And so holders of the El Salvador existing sovereign debt were unimpressed. The volcano bonds would be a strictly worse investment than buying the country's existing bonds and hedging them with Bitcoins. The existing bonds dropped 75 cents on the dollar to a record low of 63 cents after the volcano bond announcement. So people are not a fan of this, and it's probably for good reason. Let's be honest. Let's also look at this. Russia is buying gold, people. They're not buying Bitcoin, okay? So we have to realize what's going on here. Russia is buying gold, not Bitcoin. Total assets, 197 billion. Russia projects 65 billion oil windfall. And so that windfall, 20% allocation to gold will be 13 billion of oil flows into physical gold. You have to love gold, man. I'm telling you. If you buy physical gold and you don't love it when you're looking at it in your hand, I mean, there's something wrong. I'm telling you, you just have no soul at that point. The Russian National Wealth Fund has seen its assets grow substantially over the past couple of years with the rising oil price because they are one of the biggest oil producers. And so what I said to this is I said, don't forget all their money they're going to make on Bitcoin taxes. Because you have to also understand that even though, like I said, they're going to have fees that they're going to get from integrating it with the banks and forcing people into KYC and non-private transactions, which is bad. That's not what Bitcoin was supposed to be. They're also going to make a bunch on taxes, and they probably are going to mine Bitcoin as long as it's profitable. Why would they not? And then they're just going to dump it and buy gold with it. So we'll see what happens with that. We did have a CPI reading of 7.5%. So that is the most since we were born. If you're under 30 or I think 40 or something like that. So cheers to crazy inflation and crazy times in the world. Gotta love it. like I said, bulls are fucked. Bulls are fucked. It's a bear market, and it's officially a bear market after today, when the last hope that the Bitcoiners had was that we were going to somehow pump on inflation and on Putin taxing Bitcoin and dumping it for gold. They thought that that was bullish somehow. And what I said is repositioning and volatility is not a good thing for Bitcoin here. You could sort of see we had a very volatile couple of days here, up and down, crazy moves when the CPI announcement happened. And I once again am saying I do not understand what Bitcoin is. It's not an inflation hedge, and it's not a tech play like Ethereum is. It's either worth $1 million if central banks adopt it, or zero. There's no way to value it. There's no value metric, and that's the truth. There's a way to value Ethereum. You can do a cash-based value, because they do share buybacks or token buybacks, and they pay people interest in ETH. With Bitcoin, it's a total speculation. And so for people who think it's like 100% guaranteed, which believe me, most of these people do, they're in for a rude awakening, because it's not guaranteed. I also was ashamed to see that Bankless decided to come out bullish on the Russian news, which is insane, because their podcast is named Bankless, and you're now going to have to register all of your crypto with the banks. So that's insane. Let's just see. Yeah, so like what I said, that there's this resistance line here, and even on the weekly, this is just so obvious to see it. You can see it touch there, 2 times there. That top there, support even here, and then bam, we come back to it, and just we're not making it above that. It was pretty obvious. There was a lot of people I respect, like Hentai Avenger and Pentoshi, and Crypto Cred, who were saying that that was a good time to be selling. And so appreciate them for being honest about it. There was a lot of Bitcoiners and Bitcoin maxis, and even just people who are just investors, like all these laser eyes were coming out the past couple of days. I saw a lot of laser eyes come out the past couple of days, which I thought was even more made me even more comfortable to tell my friend to tell my girlfriend to sell. And so yeah, and this is another thing I just wanted to bring up, because it's like kind of concerning. They said Biden DHS issues a new national terrorism advisory saying if you post misleading or malinformation on social media regarding things like COVID-19 or elections, you are considered a domestic terrorist threat, and you are subject to monitoring and action. I don't think this will get passed in the Supreme Court. God forbid that it would, or else we would be China. But they have started to censor Joe Rogan hard, really hard. And so, again, I wouldn't be surprised at this, but we'll see what happens. Hopefully that does not happen, because I think a lot of people are standing up and speaking out too. So, I think that, I don't know, I think a lot of people are standing up to what's happening. And so it's going to be hard for them to do that, to censor everyone. And, yeah, let's see. So yeah, they CNBC actually made a video on silver today, and CNBC produced a video, and it was a misunderstanding, obviously, but CNBC has been part of the silver psyop for over many years, not telling people about what's actually going on with silver. Of course, they would never do that, because silver is completely manipulated. And what I've said is that silver is the most manipulated asset of all time, and which means if it ever reprices, no one knows where it can go. 200 is personally my target, and I've said that since I learned about the manipulation, honestly. Based on money supply, it should be $3,000. So just so you know that. Obviously, it was demonetized, but to be honest, to me, it seems like it's becoming monetized again through a populist movement. People are using silver again. It's the street money. It's the money of the people. It's the money on the street is silver. And if you haven't bought physical silver, not financial advice, but jmbullion.com is a really good place to buy silver. They are always stocked. They deliver it quickly, and they have the cheapest prices available. I'd say that they're the best out of all of the different websites that you can use. Yeah, like I said before, downgraded El Salvador deeper into junk on Wednesday, citing risk from its adoption of Bitcoin as legal tender. So just realize what's going on here. I think we're being gaslit, honestly. So here's someone that's being honest about what's going on. Russia plans to regulate Bitcoin. Individuals will be able to self-custody wallets, but would need to register it with a transparent blockchain beforehand to connect the wallet to the person using it. KYC and privacy nightmare is coming true. We'll see two kinds of crypto use, DeFi and DarkFi, and every government will try to impose the same restrictions as Russia or China to completely control us. Add CBDCs and the surveillance nightmare comes true. Solution, we have to voice our concerns in opposition to surveillance, KYC, and AML and chain analysis companies. We cannot have what happened in Russia happen here in the US. And that's why I thought it was so crazy that people were so bullish, is because I swear, I don't know if that happened in the US. I mean, it's a death blow to a lot of people that are in the market. And I think people are so desperate right now because they know in their subconscious that we're going lower. They know that it's a bear market, but they want to give it one last hope, and I think that right now, as we see the price start to crash, is people are just losing that hope. But here's the thing, don't lose hope. Just understand that it's not all about Bitcoin. It's about diversifying your income. It's about having different streams of income. It's about saving money. Did you know if you save $1,400 a month for 1 year, you would have $17,000, and that is enough to pay for a down payment on a house. So just realize, like when I bought my house, it was around that, I think, for a down payment, probably less. But so yeah, I mean that is for someone that makes $47,000 a year salary. That's about half of your monthly paycheck. So if you can save half of all the money that you make, you're going to be able to pay for a house with at least within a year, maybe 2 years. And if you have a big chunk of Bitcoin right now and you have a bunch of debt, maybe you want to sell some of that and pay off your debt so that you can restart your life and sort of start a fresh start, have a fresh start. Not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just throwing it out there that sometimes you do have to pull some out, and it's unfortunate. And believe me, I was one of those people that would never hear someone say that and be like, oh, that's cool. Let's see if I can share sound here. I know this is a new setup for me, so I'm not sure this will work.
Collaboration. I believe BUSD.
What makes Binance's stablecoin BUSD different than some of the others out there like Tether and Circle?
So number one, Binance USD is actually not issued by Binance. It's issued by Paxos, which is an NYDFS licensed entity operating out of New York. So we don't issue it and we don't control it. We just help to promote it because we have a branding collaboration. I believe BUSD is the most properly backed, and their reserves are the highest of any crypto of any stablecoin. It's different from Tether. Tether is more or less like a black box. No one ever audited it, including myself. Right. I don't have any information that's not public.
Big. That's big.
BUSD is kind of back. Yeah.
She cut him off because she knows that's too big.
BUSD is subject to regular audits, but they're actually attestations, right? Can you just clarify for us if they're audits or attestations?
I'm not sure what, I'm actually not sure.
He doesn't even know what
detail,
the backing of Binance USD is.
So the audits would be done by Paxos, and they will be conducted with Paxos. So we don't really manage the reserves at all. We just
promote it. We have no idea what it is.
Stablecoin, and we lend our brand to it, and it does have the strongest reserve backing.
Wow. To me, I mean, he doesn't know whether BUSD is audited. I mean, he doesn't know anything about BUSD. He just promotes it and dumps it on people. I even think that they like burn Binance coin or something with this. I don't know. I know they burn Binance coin with some stuff, but
what makes Binance?
It's crazy to me that one of the biggest crypto holders in the world is that guy, by the way. He's one of the richest crypto guys in the world. It's like him and Sam Bankman-Fried. And so can he really be this naive that he doesn't know anything about BUSD, but he markets it, and he doesn't know anything about Tether? But Tether's most traded on Binance, I think. Well, Bitfinex and Binance. He said Tether is a black box. It's a scam. So just be aware that Tether could take down this whole market. And we have Warren Davidson and other Congress people who are starting to wake up to this. And Tether is a $60 billion stablecoin. And you can see a lot of Bitcoin is bought with Tether. A lot of people think that Bitcoin is artificially pumped and dumped with Tether. And that's how the whales, if you think about, everyone's like, who's selling? You know, like who's buying, who's selling, who's liquidating all these people who are long? Every single time. How is it this easy to liquidate? It seems like they have unlimited money. Well, they might have unlimited money. They might have unlimited money. So just be aware that that is a possibility that is coming up here with the regulations that will be coming in. So that's all I had for today. Hopefully you guys got something out of the video. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. Please like the video. Like I said, I'm trying to make this a better experience for you guys. And so, I got my new setup here. I'm going to keep trying to improve it, keep trying to do videos every day and just share my thoughts. And again, hopefully you guys got something out of this and have a great, great evening.